In this video, we will dab into the movie M to the Trench. We will discuss the movie story, summarize the plot, and explore the cast and characters. Additionally, we will cover the movie's production details in box office performance. Finally, we will share the reviews of the movie and our personal reactions. Let's begin with the movie story. The film opens. During the Seuss period, several creatures prey upon the smaller animals before a T-Rex goes after the litter, but Toledino parls called snappers. Then the Mig leaps out of the water and cops down on the T-Rex before dragging its bloody cops underwater in the present day. Jonah Taylor, played by Statham, emerges from a shipping container on a boat sailing across the Philippine Sea. He is there to stop a group of men from dumping toxic waste into the ocean. After gathering his information, he proceeds to beat on the goons before he jumped into the ocean and is saved by Mike, played by Cliff Curtis, and Regos, played by Mason Mott, in their chopper at an Ashnik Institute in China. Jumping Zong is testing out an X-suit made for working underwater. He is the uncle of Meaning and brother of Us, who has passed away recently. And Jonas has stopped up as a rental figure to Meaning. They attend an event for the Institute heated by Jing's business partner, his dress called Jing P, tribute to Sing and their father and both, to continue ocean-based research in their honor. Jumping then present Hiki a capture megalon that appears to respond to his commands. Meanwhile, Jonas noticed a suspicious man named Montes eyeing him. At the event, Jamon tries to do a test where he uses a device to make noses that would keep Hiki away from him. During the second run, Hai does not appear to listen, and the crew gets right for jumping until he re-enters the station. Unarmed, Jonas say, jumping is being reckless, and shows concern for HIK behavior when the crew leaves. Her unattended Hai ends up breaking through the vents and swims into open waters. Jonas chant, jumping Mike Regas, and DJ head to the Manian Research Facility to explore the Marana Trench meeting with another analyst named Jamie St. Away, despite Jonah telling her to stay behind for safety. While going underwater in Asub, the crew notice Hai has gone loose and is with two other. Meanwhile, Montes is leading a mineral farming operation. Before noticing the Manian crew nearby, he blows the whole thing up, killing his own crew and causing the other sub to crash. Weston reports to Disk call his boss, who tells them that they need to prevent the Monoman crew from fighting their work at the station. After everyone picks up, Mike, still at the station, determines that the sub was spotted. The crew exist, the sub using the exo-Seuss with limited excision to make it to the nearby station. One crew member gets killed after being pulled away by underwater creature, while another one, Cell, gets chomped by AM after pushing a follow crew member away. As they arrive at the station, one other crew member, Curtis, has her suit impel before the water is stained. Since her helmet cracked, the crew then begins to look through the station to find a way to call for help. They turned on a video monitor and contact the station when they learn that Jay is part of Discord team and has betrayed the others. She releases the escape boards they needed and order Regos to shoot Jonas so that at least M can return. But Ross cannot bring herself to do so. Droll then speaks to the crew and reveals she is planning to steal JIC technology for their operation in order to get out. Jonas fights another sub and tries to drain the water out, but he passes out, and as seen by Montes, he revealed he has a personal GR with Jonas because he had him imprisoned while back for his criminal activities. They get into a brief fight, but Jonas is able to get the crew onto the sub to get out of there. Meanwhile, M and DJ watch video footage showing Jazz Subot taking the sub and learning for her deception. Dr. Call's mercenaries go after them, but the two manage to jump into the ocean to get away. Unfortunately, they are caught anyway. Jonas and the crew make it way to Manavan and fight the Marks to free Mac and DJ the Mac and start making their way to the station. As Mona's reigns, Jess, who is his girlfriend Jess, speaks to Dress Call and ensure her that she is behind me, proof glass, and then one of the mix jumps through it and swallows, just whole. Leaving Mon is distraught the situation, then starts to take in water, so the crew boards ARA to get away. The Mars follow them in their own RA, but they become make food as well. The crew starts making their way toward a resort called Fun Island, while Jonas is creating Harpoon with explosives and person to use against the Makes More, and starts going after the crew. With the remaining Marks nearby, a boat with other tourists gets pulled into the water by a giant skit Discor, and her team attempts to fly off the island, only for the snappers to emerge. One of them drags to Skull away to her death, while some of the other Macs have unfortunate encounters with them as well. The crew then tries to get the tourist out of the water as the Meeks begin to show up, and starting some of the guests, Jonas tries to save some people, while DJ Mike Rass and Juming split off to help. As well, Ming also dive into the water to help rescue people, and a dog, the Ford, encounter the remaining Marks, who hold them at gunpoint, until Mike gets DJ to open a door, allowing the snipers to come in and eat them so that they can run away. Mike and Joming find a skull, Chopper, and start to make their way out, sitting the snipers on fire as the char toward them. After spraying them with jet fuel, Jonas is able to kill one, me, by jamming the explosive Harbin into his face. But before he can go after the next one, Montes goes after him. They get into another pre-fight before Jonas kicks Montes into the ocean, just as the me leaps out and eats him the scar, then causes havoc on the resort and kills more people before Jing Creature R bomb and jams it into the SK side, Hiki, then swims in and kills the squid. The last me goes after Jonas after he draws attention to it and uses a broken chopper blade to impale the Meek through the mouth. Jonas Meek and Juming get in the water to swim back to island, but Shiyai starts coming their way. Juming uses his tears to get her to swimming around them and turned around. He thinks she really does listen to him, but Jonas suggests she is following dolphins. The three gets back to the beach and regard maying, and DJ Juming suggests that Hiki got out of her ex-payers because it was meeting season, and she might be pregnant. Jonas says it's better not to think about it while they said to have drink and enjoy their survival movies. Box office make to the trench budget breakdown. How the film became a box office hit, as short experts already know. The legendary Mlone has one of the most in the animal kingdom. To prove this fact, the action monster Philomi 2, The Trench, has taken another massive bite out of the box office. Be that is Barbenheimer, the original 2018 film, the make become a surprise international sleeper hit. It thought it. Only Bailey broke even in the US and Canada. The Jayon Stum starting film from director John Turlow nearly blew up its budget at the international box office. Whisper of a second film with more makes action, and J.S. Them had been floating around for quite some time after numerous Dellas make to the Trench has finally hit theaters. And if the opening weekend is any indication, History is primed to repeat itself with a big international run to find out if the latest blockbuster killer fish film is going to sing or swim at the box office. Check out our comprehensive budget breakdown for M2. The Trench, keep in mind that the full budgetary details for project the M2, the Trench, are not typically shared publicly, and much of the following is based on reported data, established net worth, etc. The MiG-2 is released on August 4th, 2023. Budget for MiG-2. The Trench by department, once again, fightin' of parodic shark, is rough and gruff. Monster hunter Jonas Statham, played once again by Fast and Furious franchise. Star Jess Statham, ever since his breakout role in Joy. Rich as lock, stock, and two smoking barrels. And Sneeze Statham has become a powerful player in the action world, starring in hits like The Transporter, The Italian Job Crank, The Expendables, Fast and Furious, 6 and more. The successful carriers has led to Statham giving a net worth of about $90 million, which is more than half of the total budget for Me Too. The Trench theme has more than likely paid, more than his cores, likely around a minimum of $20 million. Star joining Statham are some retaining lives from the first film, including Soya, Sufia Kai, Somewhere Only. We know as Me and Cliff Curtis, Avar the Way of Afterez, Mike and Paige Kennedy. As DJ joining the M Universe for the sequel in major Chinese film, star Jingu, best known for film, like The Wandering Earth and Wolf Warrior. The new cost is then round out by Sergio Paris Schuyler Samuels and Melis Santi Mahart for the major cast members. The final price, T, is likely somewhere around $4 million, as significant as the leading actor. Jason Statham is the Undead star of this franchise, is the T. Megalston. This time, however, Jonas Taylor faces up against not one, not two, but three Clell Great White Megan plus a giant skid. Despite being a goofy movie about Big Shark, the original film's VFX team took incredible care to make an automatically correct and visually distant Megan. That task essentially tripled in Mac 2. The Trench Toy, the reported budget for the sequel, is actually $1 million less than his producers, believe it or not. The cost and crew of Make to the Trench did not actually travel to the depth of the ocean to film the Blockbuster sequel. The trench-based and ocean floor sets were partly created at Varner. A Discovery studio in barback exterior shoots were also conducted in China and Thailand. The cost of promoting Me to the Trench. Varner Discovery had their work cut out of them when marketing summer's most prominent film. Barbie, there's not to say that Make to the Trench got woefully left out, with the marketing campaign beginning about 2 months before its theoretical release. The series also got positive marketing energy, thanks to Discovery. Annual Shark Week event, an overall marketing campaign for Blockbuster. Like M2, the Trench has a minimum advertising budget of $65 million, which is not included in the production budget. How much does a MiG-2, the Trench, need to make to break even the total reported budget for Me? To the Trench is reportedly $129 million, which is about $1 million less than that the Me cost to make, with a budget of $129 million, and a marketing budget that likely range from $65 million to $100 million's Make to the Trench will need to make somewhere between $194 million and $229 million to break. Even the Make to the Trench will likely need to make $388 million to $458 million to the international box office to be considered a financial success. How is M2 the Trench doing at the box office so far? While Barber Nears, a precedented success, is still dominating the food chain at the box office and has prevented Make to the Trench opening weekend from being a total feeding fancy. The Char C still look a conable chop synthetical tablet, with a domestic take of about 35 million and a massive international total of over 145 million. Our Make to the Trench has already made back its production budget and will likely break even as nearly as its second theatrical weekend. As of now, the film has made 384 million star worldwide, a great whole conster. Not only competing with Barbie and Opener, but also the likes of the superhero Phil Blue Battle and the sports PCK Grand Triso. How to Make to the Trench books off his projection compared to other smart. 2023, Blockbuster Summer. 2023 has been an unusual reason for the box office big budget film, like The Flash Indiana Jones and The Dial of Disney and Haunted Mansion become a precedented box office, bombs potentially losing more than $1 billion, constrain their budget. Thankfully, Barbie and Oppenheimer came to create an incredible double feature combo, shattering records with Barbie crossing the $1 billion milestone, and Oppenheimer repeatedly extended its 70mm theoretical run, while Make 2, The Trench probably will not catch up to. That Dynamic 2. It's still looking like it will be one of the more impressively profitable film of this unusual blockbuster season. 10 Reasons The Meg 2 is a $142 million box of his success, despite it. 28% Rotten Tomato disaster Make to the Trench Cross are very healthy $142 million during its opening weekend, despite bad critics' reviews. And there are many reasons why the original Me was also something of a surprise box, off his success in 2018, as the film was based on a cult horror novel that at the point was already 20 years old. A film adaptation had been trapped in development age for years, with directors like I.L. Rowe trying and feeling to get it moving, thanks to several factors like great marketing and an international cost. The Make would take a $530 million size part out of the worldwide box office. Me to the Trench is the real test of the franchise long-term availability, and it arrived 5 years on from the original release. The sequel surfaced to some PO reviews. The Make 2 receives only 28% on Rotten Tomatoes. Despite some PR-ition of doom over its financial prospect, Make to recover this entire production budget in its opening weekend alone, and it is on course to turn a nice profit. Its success should not come as a major shock, as the J.M. Sitnick confronted Fall Up had many plus point in its corner make to the Trench box office and boosted by Chen. Just like the first entry, Make to the Trench is a Chinese-American co-production. Accordingly, the film is geared towards the Chinese market as much as international audience, which include having a major Chinese star like Wu Jing in a lead role. The film made over $3 million in North America, but the remaining $112 million came from overseas, with a chunk of that coming from China. It should be noted that the Me Too series gets around Chinese film law that rejects many American blockbuster by virtue of the fact the series is 100% Chinese on and is considered a Chinese production meat for a global audience. Make to reviews were always unlikely to impact people seeing it rot. Tomato scores should never be the sore metric of the film's critical attention. That said, Make 2's MLI 28% score is an indicator of how disliked the sequel is. Among major critics on the Phillips side, it has a 73% audience score, because The Trench is, in sense, critic proof. M2 is a film that essentially sold on its poster that is Saint Fighting. A giant char, those who enjoyed the Make wanted more of the same. And there's a beautiful simplicity to mock to prize that Makes is a topical pop conflict. M to the Trench offers Something different to recent summer release M to the Trench takes audience even further into the Tatmarana Trench and execute underwater film filled with some nasty monster. In addition to just being visually distant from its rival Migu, Just Offers movie goes something different. It doesn't have a plotted runtime, a large cost of characters, or a complicated time, hoping narrative to keep track of. Instead, it's a true switch. Your brain of kind of summer block poster that delivers on its core concept within the LR. Right make to the Trench is far from flawless. But there's something to be said for the film that offers some good old-fashioned cheap thrill M to has strong franchise box offer pedigree. The me was the each of Blockbuster that tended to evaporate from people's mind a week or so after the sight even. So the film was ACH in big H, especially for the first entry in a potential franchise make to the Trench builds. On that success and audience awareness with the marketing, making it clear that while the sequel is offering more of the same, it was still adding new monster and threat to a PR concept. Migu had excellent marketing, according to an interview via Variety with Catherine Jing, CEO of Make Co-Producers, CMC Pictures. The original box office came in SQL part from China, America, and the rest of the world, while international box office contributed to the MI Shock success. It should be reminded that the film had a fantastic marketing campaign, complete with tongue-in-cheek posters and trailers made to the Trench largely. Repeated this TX stick, and again, Jessam Statham Silkson. John Shark really lets viewers know what kind of movie they have buying a ticket for MIG. 2 is 1 of 2023 is cheaper blockbusters. Outside of the Barbie Nerve phenomenon, 2023 has been a poor year for Blockbuster. This far, many have underperformed or outright bombed, with the likes of Indiana J&S and The Dial of Disney are The Flash having inflated budget to board. In comparison, Make to the Trench was produced it for a relatively reasonable sum of 40 millions, meaning it had lots of a battle to turn a profit. Combined with its channel-friendly nature, the Trench has practically guaranteed to at least make it money back me to had no friend baggage for audience. 2023 has had a summer feel with a lot of sequels, including Indiana Jones 5, Transformer, The Rise of the Beast, and facts. That means audience coming to theater are expected to do some homework first, including brushing up on the lore and backstory for each franchise. Me to the Trench requires none of this, and reviews don't even need to save the original film to understand the sequel this leak of franchise baggage way. Sound like a small thing, but it's a refreshing element for viewers who want to just enjoy themselves without having to puzzle our reference to past movies they have not seen make to her the just saint factor in the Hollywood of old. It was movie star that audience turned out for the focus on franchise built around characters. Instead of actor has flipped that. Dynamic old swine him, like Tom Cruise, still are very film course to theater, while he might not even often be recognized as such. Stam is another reliable brand and one with a consistent box of a stack record. As a leading man, Joss STM action movies has crossed over $1.5 billion worldwide via the numbers, and as part of an ensemble like Fast and Furious, he is AR nearly 3 times. D in short, and Statham is a name many viewers just to deliver a good time. Migu also had the Fing factor. Another factor in M to the Trench box office total is that it had Wu Jing as a cool lead, just as the Fast outing had another major Chinese star is Li Bingbing. The Trench was smart to add WO to the lineup. In the past decade, he has emerged as one of China's biggest stars. thanks to the enormous success of the WF Warrior and the Wandering Earth Art franchises. V-Princess in M2 alone was likely enough to ensure the sequel success in certain markets. M2 played into audience feedback in the aforementioned Freddy article. CMC Pictures, Catherine Jing, revealed that after the mix, Global Box Office turn, the company hired a consultancy firm to survey expectation for the SQL. The biggest takeaway from Me to the Trench was the audience wanted more monster and further exploration of the trenches. Itself, the sequel trick bought boxes. In addition to stick close to the mix of action comedy and mild horror that meet the first film work, Me to the Trench opens with 142 million global haul T. It took second place to Barbie in North America, make To the Trench open with the biggest global box office haul. This weekend, landing an estimated worldwide cross of 142 million, are the Warner Pro chant Shark Adventure managed 30 million in North America, compared to 53 from the same studios. Barbie but died into international waters with 110 million from 75 markets. It topped tour charts in 23 of those markets, including China, Spain, and Mexico, with Jay returning as stars and Ben Vly, a structure that Squabble, which to partly cost more than 125 million looks at, said to approach the success of original, the make of surprise date in August 2018, that ended up crossing 530 million worldwide, 385 million of it from international territories make to top local box of his charts in 23 markets, including China, Spain, and Mexico. In China, held by the addition of homegrown star Jing Wu to the cost the sequel took 53 million star. The original ended up with 153 million from China, whose Flagship Entertainment was a co-producer on B Films. Other top market for the sequel were Mexico with 7.6 million, the UK with 5.1 million, France with 4.4, and Spain and Germany each with 3.44 million. Warner reported that in like-for-like markets and using CR exchange rates, MiG-2 is tracking 5% ahead of the MiG and 6% ahead of Farmer's Rise of the Beast. Across Western Europe, said Warner, the sequel came in 1,200% ahead of the original open weekend, with 62% ahead of Transformer. The Rise of P.E. Barbie passed $1 billion in third weekend. In its third weekend, Warner BR Barbie crossed an estimated $127 million worldwide, pushing the box office phenomenon past the billion mark to a globally total so far of 1.03 billion in North America. Barb dropped 43% with a weekend take of 53 million for a domestic total of date $459 million internationally. It looked $74 million down 41% from 69 market for a total of $572 million. The Me Too. The Trench plunges past impressive international number at global box office. Warner proves the M2 Trench continues to exceed expectations as is reaching into the depth of the global box office. The film has now generated $256 million worldwide, an impressive figure given its released window at the height of the Barbin CTR 2 weekends in theater. The John Statham top-line film has brought in $54 million at the domestic box office. This is unsurprising, given the aforementioned favor of VOR POO, Barbie, and Universal's. Oppenheimer's, which are both continuing to dominate the American box office. Me Too came in fourth in the United States this weekend, also lagging behind Paramount's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle Ninja Meme. However, Me Too is doing much better overseas, and its global turtle is Spot. Thanks to other country, in particular China, the film has generated an international total of $22 million, with $69 million of this coming from Chinese sanas. M2 has done so well overseas that the film's international calculative total passed $150 million days before its second weekend in theaters. The success of Me Too in China is not a complete surprise, as the film, which is a co-production between China and the U.S., benefited from a heavy WNRB marketing campaign in the region and had its premiere at the Shanghai International Film Festival. The film also features an impressive Chinese cast alongside Statham, including Vuginsu, Sophia Kai, and more K-Mig to cap the fast F-box of total. While the $256 million total that is nothing to fret about it is still only half of what the Me Too brought is during its theatrical run in 2018, with a total of $530 million. However, given that Me Too is the only in its second weekend in theaters, it will likely have at least another month of widespread release globally, allowing it to continue bringing in the dollars. The film has already almost doubled its budget, which has asked to be around $130 million and looks to continue dominating at the Chinese box office. This is also not a previously unseen phenomenon, as the movie also did extremely well in China, ending his box office run with $153 million more than the film made in the United States. M2 set reprise his role from the first film as Jonas Ster, a deep-sea diver who is tasked with taking down a group of men eating megalodon chalks. The plane goes orbit when a number of other hell sea creatures emerge from the ocean. Sea creatures emerge from the sheer depth from an anomalous mining explosion. The film also starts Pay Kennedy, Sergio Paris, Cliff Curtis, Skylar S., and Sienna Gallery B. 2 was directed by Ben Whitley from a screenplay by John Hipper, A.R. Huber, and Dean G.G., which was itself based on the 1999 novel The Trench by Steve Alton. The film is a co-production from Chinese-based CMC Pictures, App Enterate, DF Pictures, and D. Bancha Picture, and was produced by Charlie Reed, Bori Cliff Lanning, and Lorenzo D. Meek. To the Trench is now playing in theaters 2023, already proved what Justin's biggest movie franchise really is. Actor-star Justin had been allward with some massive film series in his career, but thanks to the success of M to the Trench, we know what this is. His biggest franchise, Rel, is ever since Statham started in The Transporter back in 2002. He has been a part of some of the more iconic action franchise of the 10th century. However, Statham latest Seishin franchise in To the Trench Soulfie, his place as one of the best box office draw that exist. In movies today, the second installment of the Me film franchise continue its impressive theatrical run, including rare international box office success with more than $386 million cross so far, and it is likely to reach $4,000 million before heating to streaming. This is a strong figure after the Me crossed a surprise 50 to 30 million worldwide, as fans love the concept of Jasm. Statham as a deep-sea diver and rescuer who battle ancient creature from the bottom of the ocean. Earning almost $1 billion together, the M-Files can now be called that a more impressive franchise. M2's box office success, ESS, is more impressive than Fast X, despite being less the $400 million that Me to the Trench is projected to make. As it is finished, its theoretical run is far less than Jumpstamp. Other franchise hit from 2023, Fast X, the 10th movie in the Fast and Furious series, made $750 million since it was released on the May 20th of them, but a strong argument can be made that makes 2. Box office is more impressive than that of Fast X, the V-Diesel lead car racing action. Franchise has a 20 years history, and its latest includes several big-name co-stars, including John Cena, Helen Mirren, Barry Elner, and Charlie Theron. Make 2, on the other hand, it's just the second film. Its franchise, it has a not storyline, and it does not feature any other A-list performer, The box office performance of M2 may be several $100 million less than FX. The movie maintained 75% of the box office of the original film, M-Go riding the wave of an incredible summer of films that include Oppenheimer, and Barbie came out to support a perfect summer popcorn movie. MiG-2 has action and humor. It is under 2 hours and it doesn't require fans to invest in 9 previous movies to understand it. The M franchise has surpasses the expendable box office already with just 2 movies. The Make franchise has already earned more at the box office than the 3 Expendables movies, in which Statham also starts. The Fast 3 Expendable movie collectively has crossed just over $800 million globally, with a significant box of drop-off between the Expendable 2 and Expendable 3. It remained to be seen that Expendable 4 will bring it when it releases in SE 2023, but it is unlikely to anywhere close to the $400 million earned by M to the Trench. The Expendable franchise had its appeal in assembling action star of years past to get audience in the seats, while the Fast Expendable movie did exceptionally well, $275 million cost on an $80 million budget. The novelty of these movies has now worn off as the 4th movie is prepared to be released. Movie franchise likely to make and keep trying audience despite potential drawbacks like the Make to PO Rotten Tomato score by promising more our BG'er creature or more exciting actions. At Peace Jassam, STEM is actually the start of the M movies. One important thing to note about the Me franchise that its stay power is that Jay Statham is the main star of these movies. Unlike his other C franchise like the Fast and Furious are the Expendable, which have even bigger names. Adlink Statham has been able to take the 2 Make movies to Taman's success, which is name at the top of the card, and Delative Unknowns, filling out the rest of the performers. These starting roles allows Jay Statham, who is both charismatic and action-focused, to shine more mag to the Trench, and the franchise DAF set him to play a starting role behind V. Diesel or Sylvester Stallone, and it has been immensely popular because of it. After the success of Made to the Trench of 2023, it is almost assured that there will be a 3rd Me movie, with so excited to see Statham battle the next version of ancient Megal Meek to the Trench review. Bad, but not in an entertaining way. 5 years after the original films took a comp out of 2018, summer box office Made to the Trench swam into theater last night. How the first movie was an entertaining way to spend 2 hours of your life. I cannot claim the same for the sequel. No one expects movies like Me Too to be masterpiece, but unfortunately the second entry in the definition of me, it's bad, but not in an enjoyable or endearing way. The good about Me to the Trench, despite the overall feeling of apathy that the film left me with, there were some great aspect of Me to the Trench. Jay is a charismatic leading man, as always. Jonah's father, Detir, relationship with Soapy Kai, Me was, a standout and provided some of the only emotional moments, honestly. None of us go to movies like the M for the human element. We are in it for the giant monster action. That being said, Jonah's and me relationship was portrayed better than I expected, and their love for each other was absolutely believable. P. Kennedy as DJ was the only funny part of the movie. His jokes landed every time, and Kennedy lit up the screen every time he appeared. His inclusion made me wish for the character from the first film return for the sequel, as the cast is mostly a group of new faces, only here to become shark food. I also loved part of the action sequence. Although there are not many involved, the actual Megalon Turkter. Ben Vlay made some unique choices, making part of the action sequence feel fresh and new. The camera work was particularly good at certain point, and I was extremely impressed with the way Jonas outsmarted the shade his time around. In fact, when their Act Megalodon fight, wants the perfect mix of ridiculous and amazing and wish more for the film, left me feeling that good. There are some interesting death for side character as well, which is not something I usually notice or care about. I like the Karnak of monster movies, but I always feel bad for the sporting characters who get a few lines before they die, while I still feel a little bad. This time, I was more impressed with the way the character were killed off, contrary to your expectation. Not all of them are eaten by giant Amlon. So with interesting action sequence and fun characters for Ertor to like. Well, unfortunately, there's a lot of mimicry running throughout the rest of the film. Most of the characters are uninteresting and, thinly written. The identity of the whole SP in the group is intensely obvious from the second the concept is introduced. Sporting characters you miss from the first film are only killed off screen. Most of the excess trav line is a settled and awkward manner with hardly any jokes. Landing I saw the films is a back theater and only D-jokes got a few weeks' love. But more upsetting is a curious leak of Megalon in Meg 2. There's a pack of 3 sharks sply terrorizing our core group, but they are off-screen for large portion of the movie. In fact, they're other botter creature that get the majority of the action scene. I respect the attempt to braid in the monster action. But if I watch a movie called M2, I am expecting the Megan to be the main star. I don't want to. Sue Infobus, reptiles attacking everyone in sight every 10 minutes. Especially not during the final, when the giant shark should be getting the spotlight on that note. There's so little Megalon Carnage in this film that you have seen practically all of it in the trailer. It's no wonder the trailer essentially shows to the entire film. There's no other Megon footage to use to market the movie. I was disappointed in the final after pretty decent first and second facts. The Megal v human fight in this film don't live up to the first film at all except for the very end. When they meet their match, uninteresting drops in M to the trench. Nothing in M to feels particularly unique, aside from the way some of the action. In short, the plot is generic and the dialogue is boring. The movie reaches level of utter rents that take scenes from entertaining to bring it. Feels like you have seen this film 10 times already, and that not just because it's a sequel. Some sequence came straight out of the Jurassic Park films, but not because there's a Rex in the opening scene. There are certain moments they are expect trip-off for the better frames, to such a distracting degree that she wonder if M2 would have been better as a Matterprod film in the vein of Shero. Again, no one expect a master pie from a film like The Meek to the Trench, but at a very fast least, the audience expect to walk away, having had a 2 hours at a movie theater. I don't exactly wreck going to see the film, but I also could have used those 2 hours of my life better. Nothing in this film was particularly unique, fun, or exciting, and that's something no one say about the first make film. It's baffling to think Tambuner Pro spent an estimated $129 million making his unnecessary sequel, especially compared to their recent jot, Barbie, which only cost $15 million more. Aside from attempt to an environmental protection theme to the story, make do. The Trench has nothing to say. If there's nothing to say, and barely anything to entertain audience, what is the part of the film existent? It looked like the study took all the wrong lessons from the success of the Me, dumping a sequel on us that is nowhere near as far as enjoyable as the first installment. A relationship, I think, is like a shark. Says Woody Allen, in any haul, it has to constantly move forward, or it dies. Data Francis is a pure set into the coast. Period HS that make to the trench will exceed the INJ track. Tricky of the 2018 COR Master Movie by Guang Weirs and Wider. A suspicion encouraged by the present of Ben, fitly afield in England as Turkter. In fact, the squall alternatively treats water and splashes around frantically, in search of an identity never sting on, whether he wants his film to be alien. J. Jurassic Parr as Shano Vly serves up a BU beast of all four battling a 75 FT long Megan with a 8-foot Paraline and Dev Ross of teeth in another shot of formidable Arliss Beast Chi, who returned as Shark Hunter, and Ocean Defender Jonas Taylor, but still has not decided whether to play the role with a cocky accent or an American man. While he is mulling this over, he comedies as SBA on a research trip. 25,000 FT below, only to find the mission get crashed by MiGs. And other is rated Sea Monster. It's the multiplicity of threat that sarts any possible scares everything from a Jid invader like land-tooing Lears to a double-crossing entrepreneur and a gang of rough miner, Lee the M playing the second FAL in its own film, matter have come to a pretty pass where audience and character alike see an exploding head as little more than a minor setback intermittent. Player include a KN reference to JW2 and a little soap of horror style shoot, ging out from inside an open mouth as well as plenty of hell. No interjection from the endearing Paige Kennedy as resident TI DJ in the film. Keeps us the rejecting from enduring Peach Candy as Res Tech Guy DJ. And the films keep Satan busy. He is taking to J6 far and Impermisty, jesting torment or scamming along, appear as it's being masticated his deathless way. With a line reading can still arise, a smile great. Morix is no more's idea of Snapey Diog, but his unimpressed contents left it into the R of the draw. It's just a shame that the film makes it spend so much time playing that to a teenage short of stepdaughter Ming, along with her Ju Ming who thinks he can tame a megalodon, the end the film as a sitcom. True, suggesting a potential new direction for the third installment, a radical re-ink is needed. There's for sure Anyone for Me versus MTM to the Trench should have been Stopper once. Part of Time. JMS was the king of silly action facts. These films were not us comedies, but they were pressingly and proudly rurally choosing disbelief, the way most movies choose the suspension of disbelief. Despite sconable physical, powerless, as a fighter and martial artist, almost nothing that happened in these movies were convincing, but that often made them happen. He could cut off a bad car's arm, then use the car's arm, SED hand, to pull the trigger off his own. To kill him, he could punch a dude, set into helicopter. Tail Rower V in the audience loved V, VCH, and V went home talking about how bad the movies was. But when it happened to come on cable, we happily watched it. Again, when Stam started to become a bigger name, franchise demands took over, and a title of his personality was lost. It made perfect sense for him to change the Fast and Furious series, but he has not exactly done anything notable in it. Yet their end version of Stam can be briefly glimpsed at moments in Make to the Trench, but predictably he has to take a back seat to the giant sea. Greater in this 2018 summertime likely hit about the return of an Inaus Podrick shark was never anyone's idea of serious CMA, but the new one feels at time like a dream. High-OC Creative, 9 years old, might have had. After seeing the first one this time, there are giant octopuses and giant Hillary Enman and Dominic F., super fast reeler thing, and funky robotic exhorts, and comically casual walks along the sea float of 2050 Note de French at 1, PJI 3 Mlon, armed with a jet sky and an exploding homemade harpoon. And then, later he crow kicks a duded into the, of the leaping char. It's all extremely stupid, and in an alternative universe, it might have even been gently entertaining had there been more of it. The plot, as far as I can make out, take place a few years after the previous movie, and St. Jonat Taylor is now working as an environmental investigator for an oceanographic institute run by Jaming Zhang, a Shan. Of the same family of wealthy researcher from the F film, Jonas is also taken care of. Juming S's teenage, me who was a young child in the previous movie. Same cast member from the original have returned. In case you were wondering what happened to all those memorable character from the Me, our heroes are using fancy Sewell to make Trouse research dab into the trench, a mysterious bit at the bottom of the sea, laying beneath, and a termin that keeps all the amazing unknown creature teeing from coming to the surface. You can imagine how things go from there. Fair is fair. I would have loved this back when I was 6. Make to understands that we are here to see Shark Meme. And it doesn't seem to be obligated to back any of its narrative up with a logic or fake movie scenes. There's even a just to reference just to make sure who are not keeping our standard too high. There's not entirely an excuse, however, for watching rudimentary elements of storytelling make too often feels on AAzing molecular level, sometimes leaving as nuclear as to who. Doing, but to home on screen, other movies has gotten away with the shot of chaos. Meal B. R. Mingen is the classic. In this unfortunate subgender, but this picture makes a far as unconscious with brow, but there the filmmaking is chopping and rush without being particularly energetic. We barely know who any of these people are, so we are not particularly involved in whether they are going to survive or not, which might have been okay. But the FCs to care at one point, our heroes mourn the death of the character while Y in the AR's motor wait. Who was that? There's some Weirbox shot out at the end, and most of it involved people who are neither Jason, Stamnor and Amanus, Prehatric. Shar the Shocks, when they do appear, look pretty impressive, but the film's best special, Victor Me Statham, who is a living action figure, right down to his unchanging expression. Like a great Dean-sent comedian, he has a unique ability to make his already straight face even straighter as the absidy around him rear. Up this combination of being and glore makes us smart to see him in the most delightfully roused station. Helmake 2 provides only in stick burst when Stam picks up a helicopter blade 5 times. His size in an attempt to be a Shar 50 times his side. It briefly feels like his glority are back. They are not, but it's fun to dream. Meek to the trench, anyone hoping that B and Veli might bring some of the Soant personality and boundary-pushing creativity on display in film, like Kill List and in the art to his far higher Gex. Tracking the damn-boring M to the trench should find different cinematic water to swim, in much as it is a Noah's remark of Riaba in 2020. Vly Muesli PHS in it here, and he does so with a rot landline at least until the final half hour when he is finally free to unleash some monstrous chaos. This is one of the best film of the year, a plodding, poorly made giant shark movie, that Implast lets the shark take a backstreet to an EV underwater drilling operation. This thing just has no teeth, never really allowed to have the Viking fun he gets from his best action. Parts Jess Statham look visibly bored this time as Jonas, the deep-sea tower employee of the Zhang Institute, the facility that discovered the continued existence of a PR predator known as the Mlon in the first film. The sequel revealed that the such facility has even kept one his captive to continue to study it. Juming and inconsistence, wooing the head of the Institute, is even convinced that he can train the Megalodon, but everything goes wrong when it escapes. And no, this is not just a short escape attack movie, although you will wish it was as simple as that. Instead of focusing on the fog, me who escapes icically easily, while the crew is focused on something else. The Secret by John Hyber, Erich Scher, and Dean Gores as Jonas. SES grew deep into the ocean to the trench that the Megon sub called home for centuries on their way into the MKY Poly Short Ocean. Seriously, V's answer to recreating underwater photography is just to turn the lighting down. They discover other Megan, but they are nothing compared to the evil Homers who also happen to be in the trench mining it for resources. Yes, Jonas and his stumble upon an illegal operation in the middle of the ocean, which lead to their Vi being destroyed, a sequence in which they are forced to walk the ocean floor to a facility is one of the most poly executed in years. It almost filled real time. A few P's, less character got charmed or blown up, but most of the Fox TR is saved for Ming Sophia, Kay, who survived the first film and became the main creator. Jonas tries to keep alive. It barely a spoiler to say that Jonas, Juming Meng, and a few other eventually make it bake about the surface, freeing the facility now over on with Soldier. For a reason I could not possibly care enough to explain, they head to a dort called Fall Island, and almost 90 minutes into this maze, the Trench Valley get a little fun. You see the underwater explosion destroyed the temperature shield that had kept things like a giant octopus away from terrorist. Fairly Bitley and his team get to have a little fun. But it's far too L and far too late. Even the action-heavy fan section of the trench barely seems like a production, trying to have a good time. How do you make a movie about just Seekin' J, that them throwing herons at giant Esh and do it with a such little joy? This is a near film with none of wealthy Schomer, our vicious skill and horror. It almost like he just gave up and undoing anything interesting when he find out that he could not make it. ARR. It Cliff Curtis and P. Kennedy develop a strange bi-comedy action. Vibble on that. Almost work. But it feels a different movie from the rest of the action. Absolutely nothing here as takes so many people in the Jonas world die with barely a no to the fact they were existed. And anyone who has ever seen a movie knows who will make it to the final scene. Of course, that's not always a problem. We go to Jant Shark movies, knowing JSAT will save the day. So it becomes about execution in SC of originality, and maybe that's why VLI Far so flat. It seems like he needs to be able to play with narrative to be effective, and when he is forced into a traditional structure like he is here, he cannot put his heart into it. He just checked out and goes through the motions. Early in the film, Juming gives a speech with the Q about how man is only limited by his imagination. Two, that the movie that follows has so little of it when an evil mining operation unearthed Priad Beast from the ocean depth, including multiple Megalon rescue diver Jonas Staler must suit up to face the return of an old enemy 2018. The ME overcame meddling reviews, including one from your truly to become an unlikely global success at the box office like its producers make To the Trenches, based on the novel by author Steve Atlin. And what's exciting to Jenner fan in that the great Manvlay is behind the camera for those who may not know his work. V is widely considered one of the UK's best gender director, with him having made Kill List, Streets, Free, Fire, High Rise, and recently the Netflix remake of this is different from him because it's a big-budget IM movie. How does it fare compared to the original? Each lie is a mixed bag, while Vly adds a little cap to the film's fell. Act here the mags and other creature attack the ironically named fun. Island the PJ-13 rating mean it's never get to. Grand goal is Scary Valley, and his writer who returned from the original seemed to have given up on the idea of making it quasi-harder with them doubling down on the action. Like the first film, this is a CH of co-production due to her complicated situation at home. The film's original co-lead, Lee Bing-bit, Singh has been killed off. Instead, at character's brother, Juming, played by Ving, takes over at this country here to J. Stam Jonas, who is now raising S. Stouter as his Owens are. Returning Sophia Kai, of course, when Jonas and Juming are called to investigate the T-trench in Min Peace. She takes along only for those things to go already in a note to the physical parts of the two lead. There's a more physical action in this one than in the first film. The movie has a handful of human bad guys with a debarity over the top. Sina Gloy playing the heartless CEO of an evil corporation that wants to raid the trench for priceless mineral. She has hired a crew of mercenaries led by the psychotic Montes, who wants Revenger Jonas for putting him in jail. Years earlier, more bad guys with gun means that Stam and Vuine get to use some martial art to fight them off in addition to the CG animated creatures. What's interesting is how the movie is edited with a few weeks and some reordering. I bet you can make a version of the make to Wei Ving in the primary hero and Saint is secondary rather than vice versa. Indeed, the Chinese version is said to be longer, and one wonder how different the finished film. Our Wu Jing is a traffic action star, but he really struggled with his English dialogue to the pant that he probably should have been looped. Is quite hard to understand. This is not the first time he is acting English with him. Effective in SPL2, A Time for Consequences. But in that film, limit CPS of the language was written into the script here. He's supposed to be conserving easily, but is terribly stiff. Sasom play Statham with him is invariable as ever, but he is having a good time in the lead and has a couple of great one-liners. One issue I had with Emma To the Trench is that the choreograph is not as good as in the original. DP Tomon Crossley shoot the film, but he did not return for this one, and it now looks like any old action movie. I saw it in a loose format called Screen X, which opens up the SPE ratio during the action scenes, but adds absolutely nothing to the film. In the end, To the Trench is mix. Pig more action should mean more fun, but despite more creature, it feels like more of a B movie than the first one did. Ben Verlee is one heck of the tractor, but he is a gunfire hire here. And the movie doesn't have the Gizio touches he's brought to everything else he has made. It's a possible entertaining, but has not much done that it would have been a great little B movie had they learned into the Karnak mode, but instead it's mostly just a generic action flick and a dissenting continuation of a franchise there never been as outrage or as it should be. Me to the Trench review. Where do I begin? I am all in for a fun summer short movie. In fact, I love, in the first, make. I think it is an exciting film that has some great moments with the Megon suspense and characters you can somewhat get behind. It's a tight and contain. It knows what it is. That is why I am heartbroken to say that Make to the Trench truly is one of the most disappointing movies of the years. In the film, Jonas Taylor leads a research team on an exploratory drive into the deep depth of the ocean. There's a voice spiral into chaos when a mint mining operation threatened their mission and forces them into a high-stakes battle for survival, pet against colossal Priot, shark, and Rus. Environment, Polly. They must outrun, outsmart, and outtest their merciless Parator. The character and performance. The performance in the movies are mediocre at best. Jason Statham is fine. He's essentially the one saving grace. For this one, he's basically playing this movie. The exact time of characters you would see is one of his largest scale action movies. And SLI problem number one. Stam character is a researcher in this movie for some reason. He suddenly knows mixed martial art and all short of other high-skill moves. While I understand the Stam in real life is trained in MMA fighting, and indeed incredibly steely, it did not work for It did not work for me with this character outside of Stam. The character here are as pled as the come, not to mention each of them makes it out of snars that are so far from realism, it may make your head spin. As started in the opening paragraph, the first M movie is contained in the sense that is not what it is making is a highly entertaining right for an audience to shut their PS of and enjoy it. Focus was on just a shark here. The script sees so far away from just shark, but brings in a Kren and dinosaurs as already difficult fight, while in paper making the scope a larger might be a decent idea. The other creature simply do not, it seems like it is supposed to, create more suspense for the side character to have creature to fight against while Jonas is fighting the three Mai, but I honestly could care less about it. The director and cinematography of the movie, truly one of the only good things about the film, is been by direction. And some clean cinematographic done by Harris, example CS. The film has a nice look to it. The action scenes are well short, and Wheelie seems to understand how to create some good suspense with case sequence. And the cameras has some an angle that are sure to create some post-spawning excitement. One of the better piece of the film. For sure, the last thing I have to talk about before I wrap up my thought in the special effect work done here, it seems to be massive downgrade from the first one. There are some effects that take me out or moments that are supposed to be suspenseful. But because of the look of what I was watching, I could not feel any more one scene. There is a really visually appealing scene on a beach where we get an angle is one of the Migs' mouth as it chomps away as it lunch, which was really nice stuff. It's a clear where the F work and where they do not, in the end, make to the trench offers. Very little. It doesn't live up to the first one in anyway. And the massive scope of the movie is one of the larger problem with this one. It suffers from a SA cost of sweets, and really just does not know what it's trying to. Maybe if they make a Make 3, they can loop back around in the stall focus of Shark. But until this one is for at T, Me to the Trench reviews. More Shars, less bites. The movie-made phenomena of Bearer has been a thrilling reminder that audience can still embrace the movie theater experience turning up in audience do when they are offered something new and adventurous. It also been powerful evidence that the film that are not FBL sequel can succeed in a way that too many recent cookie-cutter franchise have not. But will all that go down as a lesson for the future or a giant ML? We probably should not get ourselves the Me Too. The Trench is a trivial, if not unwatchable, piece of semi-aught. Big budget chunk, but driving just 2 weeks after Baram. It stands as a piscus. Sing for what mainstream movies has been for the last 20 years, and what they will likely continue to be, a cash grab seal. To a Chakal knockoff check on that aim secretly at the lowest common demonstrator check, V-effect, that stream roll, what was Mar down his character? Development, check the Me Too, is nooming for Mick Promley travel, and for a few scratches like the over the third ECT tube, diverting its very shamness, it is, in other words, all an AUest movie really needs to be, but there's a way that the line between AUest movies and movies period is growing thinner every day. 5 summers ago, the Me was the oversized, under-imagined just knockoff that didn't have the judge to be more than a hockey piece of Blockbuster Nalaya. But the M2 tries to up the enters so that for all it passed together, readers, we are made to watch it and think, look at what a wild Sammer bow. It is a pirogue, said during the Crushes period 65 million years ago, present as with the dino version of doggy talks, in this case, S. scaria, sea lizard, E. riggy fish, then a T-Rex shows up and goes it thing, until the re-experator arrives and Megan, the very hot shot that makes the great white shark of Jaws look like A.O., leaping onto the beach. The mix shows down on the T-Rex, as if it were snack of food. There are multiple MiGs in the M2, including a rise in captive, one named He. They glide through the ocean with bread triangle teeth and scraggle bodies that look scared out of the nest stone. There's also giant Opus Plus, those peril lizards that seems to have strapped out of the Jurassic Park pit. Shows word, and there is a Jum, Stam looking only, slightly as leaders. As Jonas Taylor, the rescue devourer now turned pawn and eco-warrior, the film also featured the Chinese martial art film superstar Wu Yin, whose as Siam colleague doesn't get much in the way of action. Scenes. T's character does get to show off the talents as a M-whisperer. There's a sporting card of human shark made, as well as a VT actor or two, like PN mixed into the B-movies. Genericism. If you want to know what a movie would sound like were it written entirely by AI, look no further than the Me Too. The film has 3 screenwriter John Hyber, Eric Hober, and Dean G.E.S. But the problem is not just that the Doog they have come up with this leadin', are that the movie is sprinkled with discarded low and me in spec lines like before to start whining about the ecosystem. Who cares? It's that everything we see are here in function, our series of ERS nuts and bull. Jam. Together for a while, the Me Too is a deep safe dive, gone wrong, thriller waterlock division. Awesome Jazz leads a research expedition in a pair of some, well down to the Mariana Trench, 25,000 FT, below the surface, the Explorer. Came upon a secret station that's been set up by a rough mining operation. SOEs from Jonan Institute are involved, but when he leads his team on a 3-kilometer escape walk through the deep, or they have to battle their way out of the mining, the film descends into oversea action cheeches. There is entire school of mix are swimming around looking for something to eat. Adds little to the suspense. Me Jonah's 15-years-old word has not onto the suable, but the AC. Biking between the two of the never adds up too much. What's in front of us? Jonas instructs me, then why do the next thing? This sounds like how a computer res a screenplay. The make 2 plots along until it reach Fun Island, a tropical resort that provides a pastel background and plenty of exts for the film, creature feature climax, This is why we go to a MO movies to see Statham, right? A yellow speedboard armed with 3 chemical harpoon as the MJSM information. You see a gigantic tactical reach out of the sea to battle, a helicopter, or to see the veins get chomped with a well-timed out of the Bless the M-Do, was directed by the British IndyCar Chanel filmmaker Ben Whitley. And in the culminating episode, at least, he scaled up effectively, which is not quite the same as making a good film. The M movies has now short Be Flagrant, J Slugger to become their own S tongue-and-cheek trash thing. They're kind of like Godzilla movies minus the atomic bomb. Subs they make, Godzilla look deep. The Meek, the Trench movie, you are. Watching Chick a Week Stoppy Rain. Supreme in make to the Trench, a late summer sequel that often sinks BOW even its own dumb fun expectations. If there are one thing that Rietzing Beimer phenomenon prove, is that certain movies require certain mindset. From their audience, there are different moods needed to properly watch a three or drama about the making of the IC bomb, or a brightly cooled comedy about a doll. And it does not just apply to those movies. Sometimes you need to have an engaged focus to absorb every detail in a film. Other times you want to just take a movie as it comes and see what sticks with you. And then there are times when Jonathan Statham gets Cloud S from Fell Fancy 7 to kill a giant shark, and you just got to throw your head back and laughed the existence of 2018 to make a movie about a giant where a hot shark released from a mysterious trench beneath the bottom of the ocean is as lorder. Say it own premise, it's even crazier than what you have been to be original starting ceased actors like Tara Reid or Dean Kahn somehow ended up a TPL summer blockbuster that eventually crossed $500 million white with Mig to the Trench, Stam cranky underwater DVR. Jonas is now a cranky sleuth helping to expose companies that pollute the environment. He also helped with researching the aforementioned trench and other loan that happened to be swimming around Jonas, and his team soon uncover a secret illegal mining facility deep underwater, awakening Morks and other Bryat sea creature in the process. Now he and some old friend Cliff Curtis, Pogge Kennedy, and the head of the research lab Wang, and his resourceful teenage niece, Sophia Kai, have tubed the sea monster from terrorizing a coastal resort without getting eaten themselves back for seconds. If you have only seen a singular image from M to Or, yet producers, you had no not to take a single lick of it. Seriously, this is H's skull, with a new millennium budget, and thankfully, everyone behind and in front of the camera knows it. M2 also follows the formula of A.D. Skillwell and its bigger, and dumber than the original Statham character entered the movie doing environmental EPN, just so he could actually do a fight scene this time before walking on the deep potion, Flo shooting the Haran as Pre-Hotric Paris, destroying explosive JV line at Giant Shocks. There are also underwater reort suits. Healthy defying means are free swimming at the bottom of the ocean, and a whole lot of PG-13 party shopping by the trend creature for someone who spent his career making off-beat IND the dramas. It's nice to know Trickter B. Vly, Free Fire High Rise can embrace the Cornish shock of a giant shark movie to make it worthy of a multiplex instead of F on the CI channel. Just because M2 on its top duty doesn't mean it rises through the occasion. There are so many sparks of dumb fun. Here, the movie never really goes hog wild with its all until the last act at the resort. The new sea monster just pop in and out when they should be ranking. Con H, the secret mining bass, is only a plot device when it should look like the Dr. Evil Slayer. There's a Black Ops rate on an all-rig that doesn't have enough fun. Combat, and even the new M's, don't make enough appearances in their own movie. That's the biggest M I have ever seen. M2 is also quite derivative for other blockbusters lifting set piece directly from the likes of Die Hard, Mission Impossible, Jurassic Park, and even one of the low deep sea blockbuster 2020 is underwater. It may seem unfair to ask a dumb movie to let itself get tumber, but the franchise, if you can call it that, already gave up any sense of tension or horror from the job. So it might as well double down on its own creative stop. Diety, it doesn't have the almost every actor involved has the charisma of Cham. Statham is exception. Of course, face. Sing very lose. Challenge the movie. Throw at him with his well-armed Mimo and touches of enjoyment. It helped that he actually gets to act like an action star his time around with his kung fu kicks and manly jet ski writing soul. If only he had some fun character to play off the first make, had a solid cost. Of B, sporting actors. Robbie Ross, Ren Wilson, Winston Chaw, bringing levity to the RTOP M Sing theme, none of which return to the sequel of some odd reason. I Am Bing B, Stam love interest. Last time is given an off-screen. Death for no good reason. Leaving our star, no one to bond with the side from the computer-generated fish. Sophia Kai, lead daughter last time tries her hardest. Stam foster kit, but the cookie, smart kit. Drop can only go so far. Cliff C.T. Ice and Paige Kennedy, the only other returning actor, have a handful of fun moments. And even Chinese action star Fing the Wandering Earth RW Barrier brings energy desperately needed to be distributed to the rest of the fouture. The bottom line, there are 2 videos to judge Mike to the Trench on a grown-up technical level. It's another classic case of a sequel that wants to go bigger than, but gets to plot it, to hold its own way on Adam Shellick level. The Trench mostly makes good on its promises of more shock, gauge, and goofy. Water-based buffer, it's still a shame that the movie didn't have a little bit more budget or gravity or even go to turn it into a true trash master pat like Bad Bo 2. But at least it doesn't sink to the Hennard bottom of the Shondu series. Migu does not deserve the destination of being a movie. You need to turn your brain off for no movies tea, because then how will anyone register whether a film is good or not? If they watching it like a mindless zombie, the film just wants you to have fun. And even if it's got dumb ways of doing it, isn't it fun to set up your mind stolely once in a while? The M2 Trunch is now playing in theaters everywhere. She can watch the movie easily. Me to the Trent ending once again proves that Megalon are no match for the epic Spirator known as Jess Stam. M2 picks up a few years on from the original Mix, ending where Jonas and his Manavan team go on another expedition into the Marana Trench, only to run into trouble from 3 Me's and discovering an illegal mining base on the bottom after becoming standard, and managing to escape using one of the best miserable. They find that an explosion has tipped a hole in the termini layer of the trench, allowing the mace and other creatures to escape. Makes 2 ending SC, the in a race against time to protect tourists on nearby Fun Island. In addition to killing the escape trench monster, they also have to dog mercenaries hired by the trench villain DC, who wants to silence them after they found her. P needed to say, the escape monsters eat most of the villains, while Stam and his SCW take care of the beast themselves. Bar one, they then celebrate their victory with drinks on the beach. knowing they will likely have to deal with more M in the near future. Why Jonas skills too. But the third M lives when M to the trench openers revealed that years before the Manavan team found a baby, Motlonde, high key and restart in captivity. In fact, it high cap that forces. Jonas sends Screw into the trench, kicking the story into motion. Bell they discover to other giant shocks, including one, Jonas Depp, the biggest megon anyone has ever seen. Just true of make sees. No one of problems, and eat a fair amount of tourists at Fun Island before Jonas can stop the buffet to distract the Mlon from their food. Jonas soaps on a Joe sky and lowers them away from the island. He also runs some harpoons with explosive and kills one of the mucks by stabbing it in the head, with promptly explode. The big Stark is more of a hustle for poor Jonas, but it makes two. Sending he uses a helicopter blade and splash in the water to attract its attention, before using the blade to stab the charging monster in the brain, make to the trench cast. Franchise newcomer Vinges, Juming the uncle of Mijing, who had been training Hai not to attacks using a special clicker after Jonas has slain the other two. Mlon Hiki returns to attack. She launches straight at Zooming. But while it looks like the clicker is not going to work, the signal gets through to her and she turns away. At the last second, Hiki then swims away to parts unknown, makes two villain plot, and Mo PL explain what they wanted. M2 adds a villain plot to SP things up with Manavan investors, to Soulish using the team researchers at cover. For her two goals, she established a base at the bottom of the trench so she can mine a rare Maynell that can only be found there and is worth billions. This operation is overseen by Monas, a mark with a personal GR against Jonas for getting him thrown in prison on a previous operation. The Manaman crew uncovering the secret mining operation was not part of Tarlai plan, so she ordered Monas and her M with in the group. To S them make two MO is eventually revealed to be J, who subbed the rescue. Sub J is also romantically involved with Montes, and the only Montes she give Jonas, for her betrayal being the money involved, karma marks over time in JA case. As when the mock escape the trench, she gets a little too close to a mag-proof window, which is quickly broken with a Mlon smash and eats her Faru, who watch Max 2. The smashing death was spoiled. Already did any other creature escape from the trench in addition to the three Megan that followed Jonas and the other T. The broken mine lay some other message, escape from the bottom. To the first is a giant squid, which also makes it way to Fun Island and starts snaking on tourists while Jonas is busy with the Megalon. It's up to Juming to take care of the scared thieves. In this case, he is given some assistance by a hungry M. Some man eating emphasizing liards also come to shore on Fun Island, and they prove surprisingly useful in demonstrating the mercenaries hunting Jonas and co. They also make two villains tool as she tries to escape. Via a helicopter, a combination of explosive and gunfire takes care of these nasty lizards. Mitutias High, I is pregnant, setting up make three-story Jumling eventually reason that Hiki escaped captivity and was so eager to return to the trench because it was meeting season, and the crew is then given a front row seat to High getting very friendly with the other mechs in the final scene. Jonas and Juming discuss the possibility Hiki is pregnant, and they may soon have more mechs to deal with. They decide that Hadish for another day and just decide to celebrate their victory and get drunk, while Miku doesn't confirm it. Hi is likely pregnant, and the Word will soon have to deal with more. McDon's swimming around. Not only that, it's probably that other creature have escaped from the trench with the L books in Arthur Steve Atland. Make series featuring aquatic creature like the Leoan or the Chorus, with the layer separating the Word from the trench now ripped open. The M3 will have plenty of other theaters for Jonas to deal with. How makes 2 ending different from the trench book? While Aitor novel, the trench borrow superficial similarities. To make 2 movie, their stories play out quite differently. The most obvious, story beat, that Cher is a me skipping captivity so it can meet. But outside of featuring Stam Jonas, our Cliff CTIs make other major book character like Jonas' wife Terry, or Energy M villain, Bed Singers, are a bent. There's also a key book of plot involving a crossers attacking somebody that is missing from the movie. Sequel, the Trench movie's ending take place in the trench itself, where Jonas rescues his wife from an underwater lab. They manage to escape the lab before it destroyed. But Jonas' spear is recording Nightmare of Trying. In the trench is about to come true, as a Chronosaurus nearly destroy their escape part in an Excop TST, and Angel the Me, the book's version of High-Tie attacks, and kill the monster instead, allowing the CER to escape. The book ends with Angel giving birth to 2 Mo offspring, setting up the third novel primary verse. Make to the trench ending take place entirely on F Island, and no crossers appear. Make to the trench ending explain. J some that them better prepare for the Scoro. Type meek to the trench. Jassum Seta made waves in movie theater last year with Meek to the Trench. A sequel bigger than the original movie in every aspect. Well, in every aspect, the box office M to as of now has earned $395 million at the worldwide box office, compared to the M529 million haul in his second visit to the trench, where Priyat Megalon shocks. Room free. Stam must also fight against a group of human mercenaries led by the devious Montes. Furthermore, make to reveal there are moldies inside the Manaman Marine Research Station, undermining the excellent work at STIs. To finally, in the 6th year between the Meek and Meek to Manon, technology involves so much. The both heroes and villain have fancy new toys to play with. So with you already, cast this way in theater are stepping into the ocean for the first time. Now that Meek 2 is available to stream on Netflix, it's okay if you feel drawn in information by the time the credit roll, especially after the chic third act battle involving all the main characters in the movie, human or otherwise. That's why we have prayed on Handy Guide to break down the main events of Make to the Trench and explain what happened in the BRE taking ending What's the Secret P inside the trench in the time between the MiG and Meg 2. The trench monomore researcher have developed submarines loaded with electrical charges and Exxon that allow diver to walk freely on the ocean floor, ignoring the crushing pressure of 25,000 FT of water above their heads. With the Conley they can keep Megalon at. Baymanam Monk has been exploring the Yunar lands under the ocean's thermaline and documenting all the new spices of plant and animal that live in the Turkish corner of our blue planet. However, right at the beginning of Me to the Trench, Jonas Taylor and his teammates end up in a new quar of the trench only to discover a secret underwater station there. The underwater forest is a mining station overseen by Monte, a mercenary with a grog against Jonas after the IM of the Meek. Jonas begin to work as an eco-friendly JBS-born infiltrating criminal organization to EXP expose their crimes against nature due to Jonah's efforts to keep the ocean clean. Moore spent 2 years in prison, which gives the villain a personal reason to go against Stam's phoning hero. Yet that's not the reason why Mortis is at the underwater station. The mercenary was sent there by an investor of Manon who... For food, who was the more inside Manon Amen. The secret mining operation would not be successful without someone inside Monin feeding the mercenaries information, while Jonas read the survivor of Montes explosion to safety. Mike, DJ, and Jazz do everything they can to reveal who, the more in Monin, the Tri takes a long time to access the foray that shows who destroyed the Arayu Serene and traps Jonas in trench after the explosion. Unfortunately, when Mac Finlay donned the footage from a satellite backup, he learns Jay-Z is the Seor, while M to the trench doesn't explains this. When Jay-Z has been a traitor, we do see her sharing a loving case with Montes, which means they were in a romantic relationship before she gets eaten by a Megan. That and the money from the illegal mining operations are sufficient reason for Jay-Z to betray her co-workers and help steal technology from Manon, who and make to the trench final battle. When he blows up the trench to bury, Jonas Montes accidentally creates a temporary hole in the thermaline that allows the botter creature to escape. So, once Jonas and the other survivor return to the surface, they face M mercenaries, 3 Megon, a giant octopus, and a battalion of MP Mini-Max. With sharp teeth, the final battle between all the parties happened in the AA named Fun Island. On his way to Fun Island, Jonas tucked UPS explosive to hard BS so he can have an effective weapon to fight the Mlon, while Jonas is justing with Shark on top of the jet. Sky DJ and Ross are charged with finding a working phone to alert the authorities, a difficult task. This Monas destroy the island cell phone. Tower, meanwhile, Mi and Juming try to find more weapons they can use to help Jonas defeat the Mians. Fiend Ming is ordered to remain hidden. Jonas uses the explosive Haroon to blow a hole is one of the Megan head in the land. Heroes and mercenaries play a dangerous scat and mouse game while being chased by the Empen Mini-Bigs. DJ Andrios finds a satellite phone in the body of the mercenary and calls the military at the same time. Jing uses fertilizer to make makeshift bong he can use against the Megon, the financier of the mercenaries. Mining operation is killed by the Mini-Mag, leaving her helicopter unattended M and Juming J to go after Jonas and give him some support. Meanwhile, Jonas gets into a gunfight against Montes, which ends when the mercenary is eaten whole by a McGordon, while everyone is busy on one island, meaning leaves her hiding place to help a droning tourist. Unfortunately, the guard quickly becomes a target for the giant octopus. So instead of assisting, Jonas Jing goes to save his niece. The octopus crushes the helicopter, leaving Mike stranded in the ocean. At his turn, Juming rescue Ming and uses his makeshift explosive to try to slay the beast. Unfortunately, the octopus survive. Juming is a civ to BD when he is saved by Hiki, the M he helped to ride since she was a baby. Hitoi shared the giant of octopus while Juming escaped. What happened at the end of M to the trench when Jonas realizes Mag is in trouble? He rescues his friend using Statham muscle and Prieur. Our Jonas races one of the helicopter PLEs, waiting patiently for a second Emlon to jump in. His direction and be impeded by the sharp object. There's only one Meg, left he. At first it seems like. H will T, the heroes, however Juming chooses a clicker to give the giant shark the order to swim away. He obeys, which zooming interrupts are the fruit of his successful training for Jonas Theate. That only means Hysa, a group of dolphin that seems juicier than the human. The authorities came to Fun Island after the fight is over. So just to recap, Monist, the mercenaries and their financial work by the Megalon are the Mini-Mize 1. Megalon is BLW to Peace by Jonas with explosive harpoon. The second Mygon died after being impaled by a helicopter blade plus the giant octopus, get ripped apart by High-Eye Fin. All the meaning BS get shot down by the mercenaries or heroes. DJ even shorts the last Mini Beaks to protect Ming once she returned to the beach with Pippin, the same dog who survived the first movies. I am made. It's a happy ending for the heroes, but danger still darks what happened to High-Eye, the friendly Megon at the beginning of Me, Too, the trench we meet. Hiki Omlan raised in captivity. 1 week before the movie begins, Hiki began to behave erratically and disobey her training commands. On evening, Hiki escaped her cage when Jonas and Jimming depart to investigate the trench. The cross path with High-Eye, they decide to follow the shark, which eventually lead them to the Mer's secret base. More a pro, they discovered Hiki has been misbehaving because it's mating season for Megan. So there's a high chance High-Eye me it with another Megan and is not pregnant. Since High is alive and free in the ocean, she could give back to 100 of hungry Medlones before the next movie. That's undoubtedly something we could love to see. Sink fight if Make 3 ever gets green. Lit John Turtletop. The me shocked the word by trying a stunning financial return on a silly promise and one notable action. Star Just Statham, in his infinite wisdom, was quick to point out that the F's box of AS would be the deciding factor in its franchise potential. The second entry made to the trench was a foregone conclusion. What does it leave? Room for another MOT Millie. The humble shark movie has been a stample in Hollywood long before St. Selick protected it. JCH the landscape of filmmaking forever by inventing the summer blockbuster, but it also opened the floodgates for a never-ending doogs of short films the new breed has to relay on gimmick like unique setting on natural disasters. The Me and its reading sequel may have selected the most straightforward sailing point. What if the shot was much bigger? What is Me to the trench about after the events of the M former rescue diver? Jonas Taylor has become something of a celebrity. Instead of retiring and enjoying the fruit of his labor, he has taken up a new gig as and ecological justice farrier. When Taylor's not apprehending illegal plotters, he returns to Monin to continue mapping the mysterious region at the bottom of the ocean. Taylor and his old friends Mick and DJ return to the job with a new crew, and ungraded Tech Taylor's love interest from the previous film tragically tied off-screen, leaving him the primary guardian of 14 years old Ming Ming's Uncle Jimming Cage, afraid of amazing diving suit that enable humans to survive the pressure of the death. In the meantime, he's also training a Megon shark named He, responds his commands. She has been behaving oddly despite years of education. Taylor Zooming and several other dares prepare for a routine excursion to the Tuller Trench. The Mon team discovers a research pit at the bottom of the trench, an area they thought accessible only to them. Hai escapes, revealing that it's meeting season. For M. Leon they encountered Montes, the insidious leader for a secret mining operation. When Monter sees Taylor and his screw, he detonates a massive explosive charges, leaving all of them standard, and blowing a hole in the trench. Natural Thermaline 3 makes escape the depth and take off towards the surface. The Monoman divers must walk 3 kilometers at the bottom of the ocean to reach the UNC base. They swiftly uncovered that the rescue vessels has been subbed. There's a mole inside Manaman, sat on outside by strange marine life. Taylor Me Juming and Taylor's co-pilot rigs reach the undersea base. They have lost several friends and colleagues along the way. Taylor discovered the base has been damaged in a mund, but its escape parts after them are away home. After reaching the ports, the room locks down. Jay, one of the workers, on Monomon video calls. The team reveals herself as a traitor and discards all the escape cells. She turns over the mic to the group's mysterious Menactor Driscoll. She explained that her financial backing of Monoman was a play to steal Jing's technology and plunder the ocean for profit. DC sets a team of mercenaries on Mana 1 to capture or kill disloyal crew members, forcing Mike and DJ to hide Taylor, and Juming escaped the base by stealing a submersible and taking off for Manaman, one of the giant sharks, Mez, the protecting glass, killing G and gilding everyone abroad. Man and Taylor, Juming, meeing Regis. Mike and DJ must out with the mercenaries and deal with the escape. Makes how does make to the trench end, eh? A few action scenes lat. Taylor and his friends are on a rowboat away from Manaman. Juming reasons that the Mais will head towards the nearest land mass, a massive tropical resort, Sea Fun Island, the mercenaries. Far tailored to the resort, the island is populated by HS Makeups, who quickly start picking off the mercenaries, and at Treble, Popdare, Drissel, Jonas, he takes to the sea on a Justy with 3 explosive herons to deal with the MS Me, and Gigas try to save. Vacationer from the SE Mike and Jimming fight a giant SK, while plotting a stolen helicopter clears SC 1 week with a harpoon. A second Me, which turns out to be high attack and devour the SK to save Juming. Taylor's skill, Montes by kicking him into a M's mouth. He then kills the Phenol Mlon by picking up a helicopter blade and letting it impale itself. Tayor zooming and make flood in the ocean. As a make approach, Zooming identifies Ares and juices his clicker to convince her to back off. Taylor and Mike maintain that the shark is not friendly Taylor. Jum and Ming Regos make and DJ relax on the beach and share a drink after their victory is make to the trench ending. Different from the book, Me to the Trench has almost nothing to do with the book is ably based on Steve. Alter the Trench features on Me and Captive and more marine paraders. But it has no comparable element with the meant-be factor story of the film. However, the big conclusion does suggest where the films might go. There's a captured Me is named Angel, and it also skips captivity to engage in matting with M-Max. In the final pages of the book, Angel G gives birth to 2 pops. Look out of the Me 3 in, with Taylor might have a family of Megalon on his side. Me to the Trench does not have an end, created scene, or an unresolved cliffhanger. It delivers its sequel subtly if the franchise and here. A distinct possibility it will be a complete story. There's a plenty of room for a third entry. Make to deliver the same kind of a set piece. The storytelling fans would EXP, ECT in MiG-2, the train Jossam Jonas. Once more has to stop Jay Shar from diving pockets of Vacationer outside of China. This time he has more home enemies to contend with in the modern spin of the Jaw franchise. It's all thanks to his company having an email investors as glorious DC. She sent a secretly D into the trench for illegal metal mining, which leads to an explosion that creates a hole in the thermal barrier that keeps the creature in their habitat. M2's final results in 2 Megan coming up to meet Hiki the Shark Jonas, company raised as a baby in quick time. The shark go on a rampage at Fun Island. Thankfully, Jonas' colleague Rel, with him leading to another plotty ending that defies logic, the way the Fast and Furious move movies. M2 leads to a monster? Or M2 has many battles happening on the island and offshore as well. Jonas uses exclusive harpoons and a jet ski to confront one Meek and BW his head off. However, Driscoll mercenaries, Montes comes after Jonas. Due to an old Venta like Jonas kicks him into a sharp spot, ending him in a fell that takes Swen. A giant octopus that comes up. The Milan swims away and leaves Jonas thinking. She follow a school of Dolan's Jumas. Admit, however, that she listened to his sonic signal after years of ponding. Ultimately, Jonas is glad to be back on island, taking care of me whom he adopted after the first film. All is concerned about how is his family. However, they know Hiki is most likely pregnant. But there's a MCH for another day. M2 does highway, and into the M2's ending packs in a lot. While the first film focus on Jonah's team haunting 2 Milan, the make to barely shows any creature for the first arts. But in the second half, it chalks so much at first at the membrane and preacher, rather than take his converted approach with V-humans and accuse you the better option would have been to dive into the tray shark and high turning on them. She didn't eat Jing in the tank earlier on, despite the Santic playing. God, it's a very much erring to Deep Loy, suggesting a character portrait with high Y, and her loyalty was the better option. It would have learned more into the Megan, wanting the freedom to go down to the trench for meeting season, and why she eventually chooses Juming over her kind. Instead, the dinosaurs mirror the plot along with the typical evil stist. Ark throw in the giant octopus, and wandering Juming his attempts to blew it up and high killing it. Everything is spread too thin on a creative level. Miku would have been better service by focusing on Chi her board with Juming, and why Jonas is Chico. This way. Jonas' moral compass could have been work addressing if he do want to kill a loyal pregnant Milan, one who was scared her whole life, and who is only now just trying to understand her place in nature and the food chain ultimately make to diminishes the potential of the vinaigrette. Started out with ignore the substance of Hiki in what could have been a trop-rocking manious monster. Adventure made to the trench ending explained the 2018 movie. The me told the thrilling tea of Jonas Taylor, a rescue diver portrayed by the talented Jess, Stam alongside Ocean Crafer Sing Sang, played by Bingley the SBL upon an unexplored, were deep in the ocean beyond the Marana Trench. Pumes and their discovery lead to the awakening of the living Megon shark, wrecking H on a nearby beach, until they manage to stop it. The much-awaited sequel to the Ben VST, the make made to the trench, continue the story. while plugging into the Pauyues and Omos ocean depth. Additionally featured in the movie are Cliff Cottis Bingju, So Sopia K, and Peg Caney. The film begins with a flashback to the Cretaceous period showcasing the pretty of nature aspirator became pre, and the make eventually trumped the movie's central theme, that nature cannot be teally domesticated, or teams is expert in this way. Tangled well of TST and turns, in order to explain how the Parator PR cycle that results in the me consist came to be. Me to the trench letter takes the audience back to the Cassius period. This prepares the audience for the movie's major subject, the uncompromising force of nature. Despite our attempts to control and shape the natural world, it remains unpredictable and untruly. The narrative picks up with the character from the last film, who are still alive while suing unexpected death, puts her daughter Me in Jonah's SC. He and Mike have been focused on convert operation against sea parrots. Juming being uncle has improved. Manaman on underwater research facility and even mentored make a hostage EAEE.